Welcome to Kuja AITA, where OP shares a situation about rescinding her sister's invitation to her wedding and laughing at her sister's husband. Now, OP is wondering if she was in the wrong. Never thought I'd be posting this here, but me and my fiancé are avid lurkers, so I thought this would be a good spot to get a judgment. I, 27M, have two sisters, an older Jessica, 30F, and a younger 26F. Me parents are divorced and my dad is remarried. When I was 16, my parents split due to my mom having an affair with a friend of mine's dad. I was at the age where I could decide who to live with. I choose my dad. My sisters choose to shuffle back and forth. Me and my sisters have never been close afterwards. I have not spoken to my mom since I graduated back in 2014, and my sisters have been bitching about it since. My sisters don't like my stepmom while I love her, so they don't come to my dad's much, which we are both fine with. I don't speak to them unless necessary around the holidays. I did not attend my older sister's wedding due to the tension, so I've never met her husband. I'm currently engaged and our wedding is in December. I plan to invite both my sisters for the sake of my fiancé who wanted them there. My younger sister isn't coming because I did not invite my mom, and instead have my stepmom involved, and I'm happy with that. My older sister pretends to be this big family person on social media, so I think for appearances she was going to come. After I sent the invite, she called and said it wasn't right to phase our mom out considering her side of the family will be there. I said I didn't ask her advice on the guest list. She said in solidarity with our other sister, and our mother, she isn't coming. I said great. That was a month ago. Last week I got a call from a random number who ended up being my BIL saying he spoke with my sister and she wanted to come. I said that isn't what she said originally. He said she was trying to force something and that was wrong and she wanted to attend. I said it was too late as the offer had been rescinded. He said that family was important and it would be a good step. I asked who the hell he even was, as I've never even met him. He said my sister is too proud to call, so he did it for her. I said it was too bad her ego was that big that she'd allow her husband do her dirty work, so there was no invite. I pretty much told the guy that family wasn't that important given I don't even know who he is, and that his wife tried to threaten me. So I was done with it. He said a few other things about family, and I just laughed at him, telling him I don't even know him. They obviously want a free dinner, and he should get his balls back from my sister. My fiancé heard most of the convo and said I was being an age to him, even if my sister was toxic. I told her that the asshole thing is to call on your wife's behalf about an issue that doesn't concern you, and to threaten your sibling with shit to get them to do what you want. So I was just retweeting it. AITA. Sir fucked my mum YTA. Specifically for how you treated your BIL. You said yourself you hadn't met him. You don't know him, but you treated him like shit when he was nothing but polite and trying to create a bridge. If you really think they wanted a free meal, you're ridiculous. Your sister asked your BIL to call and was trying to save a little face. She wanted to be there for you, and yeah, she was an asshole and tried to manipulate to include your mother. Okay, family do dumb things. She was extending a branch through her BIL because she's embarrassed, and you for no apparently reason took a flamethrower to that branch while acting like a child. You could have just said no, not thrown names, and left it open for the future, but instead were unnecessarily mean. AITA for bullying the police into pressing charges against a bunch of kids? First and most importantly, I'm not here for legal advice. I'm here to see if I'm the age. Second, this is my property that I have a mortgage on. It's not community or city property. This past winter, I had a pool installed at my house. After the pool installation, I had my old fence removed and installed new fences that met with the city code for a residential pool. My new fence is higher than my old one, and the gates have approved locks. About a month ago, I had to travel for work, and was gone for about 2 weeks. I came back to find my backyard trashed, and it seemed someone had a pool party while I was gone. The locks on my gates were broken, but luckily no one broke into my house. I checked my security cameras and saw at least 20 teens having an all-day party that lasted late into the night. I did not get permission for anyone to be at my house, so I was mad. My cameras are HD, so their faces were clearly visible, and I recognized some from the neighborhood. I went to the police and submitted a copy of the recordings and tried to file a report. The cops did their best to try to talk me out of it, but I pressed them on it until they relented and took a report. Weeks passed by and I heard nothing, so I called them to find out nothing has been done. I got angry and threatened to sue unless they got off their behinds and enforced the laws. I should point out I live in a town of about 2,000 people, and nothing ever happens here. The cops are not understaffed or too busy on other cases. I also know I probably can't sue the cops into doing their jobs, but I lose nothing by threatening a lawsuit, and I was mad at the time. Finally, they got some of the teens seen on my security video, but again, they tried to talk me out of pressing charges. I was adamant and insist they file charges. When my girlfriend found out about the situation, she said I should have let it go, and we got into an argument about it. My own mother thinks I'm being a bully by forcing the cops to file charges against some teens who just wanted to throw a party. Virtually everyone I know is making me out to be some grumpy guy with a score to settle, and I kid you not, everyone in my life is trying to talk me out of it. They're worried about me destroying these teens' future over a pool party. I don't know when it became okay to break into someone's property. Right now it feels like it's me against the entire world. Update: I'm so glad I posted my situation here. Many of you pointed out that the cops might know the kids, so that's why they're dragging the case. I never thought of that, because I've only lived here for 2 years. You all opened my eyes. I called my buddy who grew up and still live here, so I invited him to dinner tonight. I asked him about my situation and showed him my security vid. He immediately said about half of the high school senior class was in the vid. His kids are in the same high school, and he recognized the daughter and niece of the mayor. He also told me he thinks a couple of the kids belong to the local prominent families, one of which own one of the local grocery stores. We talked about it, and I decided to take your advice and drop my complaint in exchange for the parents paying the damages. I'll call the cops tomorrow about it. There's a post below about someone's uncle living in Oklahoma who made a complaint and subsequently got pulled over repeatedly for phantom traffic violations. That really opened my eyes, and I definitely do not want that to happen to me. Why do I need a name? NTA, trespassing, destruction of property. Thankfully no one drowned or was injured. And F the police for not doing their jobs. You're not in the wrong or a bully for enforcing your property rights. AITA for leaving my niece's wedding reception early and taking my gift back? I'm 45M, and I have a niece who is 22 and just got married last weekend. The family is blowing up with drama right now because of what I and my wife did. I must preface this by saying my family can be pushovers. They really all hate conflict and will definitely let themselves be run over by someone else in order to not cause a fight. I am not this way. The wedding was on Saturday. Catholic ceremony in a church that was at 3:30 p.m. The reception area was at a brewery about 15 minutes from the church. The reception was set to start at 5. Maybe this was stupid on the venue people, but they wouldn't open the bar or bring around the appetizers until the bride and groom arrived. Service ended around 4:30, and everyone was told to go to the reception. The wedding party had a limo to take them, and a separate limo took the parents, grandparents, siblings. The couple is young and decided against family in the wedding party LOL. It was 4 sorority sisters and fraternity brothers on each side. My wife and I drove. We got to the venue around 4:50, with the first family limo arriving around that time. By 5, I'd say all 150 guests were there, but no bride and groom. The wedding coordinator was getting pissed as it's now 5:45 and no wedding party. We are all just standing around with no food or drinks. Someone was able to get a hold of the MOH around this point, and apparently the bride and groom told the limo driver to stop at a liquor store and then drive around on the highway for an hour so the wedding party could get trashed. At around 6, the MOH said they should be arriving in the next 20 minutes. My wife and I looked at each other and said we are out. We thought it was horribly disrespectful for them to do that to all their guests. I told my brother, Fob, that we were leaving and taking the gift with us. He tried to plead by saying they're just kids, let them have fun, but I was having none of it. A few days after, I got an apology text from niece followed by an ask for the gift again. I said that I felt very disrespected and I didn't want to give a gift anymore. She snapped and called me an asshole. AITA for refusing to share a campsite with strangers. Last weekend, my wife, 30F, and I, 30M, went on a backpacking hike in the PNW. The hike was 24 miles total, 12 in 12 out, with the trail ending at a beautiful crystal blue lake. The trailhead was close to 3 hours from our home, so we woke up at 3:30 a.m. to be sure we'd get an early start. For those unfamiliar with overnight backpacking, the end of a hike typically has several established flat sites to pitch a tent. They are always first come first served and not reservable or numbered in any way. My wife and I started the hike around 7 a.m. and finished at 1:30 p.m. We were surprised to find that we were the first ones to complete the hike, but more surprised to find that there were only 4 sites scattered around the lake. For a hike this long, it's not uncommon to find 8 or 9 sites at the end. Regardless, we were glad we had options and chose the first spot that sat directly in front of the lake. We wondered what might happen as other people started to trickle in. Lo and behold, within the next hour a few other groups showed up and the remaining sites were claimed. Around 4 p.m., a group of 4 hikers arrived at the lake. At this point, my wife and I had been well established at our site, with our tent, cooking gear, and supplies spread out. The group of 4 hiked around the lake searching for spots, and eventually returned to our site. They stood around for a few minutes before approaching us and asking if we could move our tent to share the space with them. Given the size of our site, their tents would have been no more than 6 feet from ours, and our otherwise private backpacking trip would have become a shared experience with strangers. We would have been cooking food together, gathering water together, and hearing each other's conversations. Therefore, we politely declined, and suggested they check for sites at the lower lake about 1.5 miles back. They were clearly displeased by our answer, and gave us the "come on man" routine. We again declined to share the site, at which point they became upset and insisted that we move our tent to make room for both of theirs. They said it wasn't fair that we were capitalizing on the spot. We maintained our position, and they ultimately left the lake. My wife's and my backpacking philosophy has always been to set ourselves up for success by arriving early. The whole point of backpacking for us is to get away from social obligations and be in solitude. Are we the assholes?